How accurate is Law and Order to the reality of crime? There's so much that goes into the court system that people don't understand. For example, a prosecutor is only thought to try the cases, and it's not really talked about how big of a role they truly have in preparation for trial and even after the trial. In the show Law and Order, the prosecutors take a very substantial role in the cases and the preparation for trial, the trial, and then after trial. A prosecutor is, according to Indeed editorial team, what is a prosecutor? They're the person who is in charge of bail negotiations, deciding who to charge for these crimes, who to prosecute. They prepare for the trial. They go through the jury and they help choose who will be on the jury. They prosecute the case, and then afterwards they help with sentencing. There's so much that goes into a prosecutor that is not talked about. What is Law and Order? Law and Order is a TV show that is very well known around the nation. It's a very common show. There's many spin-offs from it. It is written by Dick Wolf, and it has many spin-offs, including Law and Order SVU. It has Law and Order Organized Crime, and then there's the plain Law and Order. It's very complex in this system. The differences between Law and Order and other TV shows are Law and Order decides to not only show the crime and the arrest and the chase to figure out who committed this crime, but also the prosecution of the accused and the punishment that follows them being tried. It also delves very deep into what goes into a trial and how hard it is on people regarding this trial. According to Law and Order changed how we feel about Mahida Gajania. Most accused do not go to trial, according to Law and Order, how the system really works. And this is because in order to go to trial, you need a lot of resources. You need a lot of money, and most people decide just to take a bail choice because if they take a plea in regards to their case, they can have lesser charges, they will have a lesser sentence, and it will not be as bad for them, and it's also a very cheaper option. According to Law and Order Valorizes Law and Order by June Costin, public defenders are a very adequate defense. And this is important to know because when you watch these TV shows, you see that the only people who get praised are the famous lawyers, the rich lawyers, the expensive lawyers, and in actuality, that's just not realistic. Most people cannot afford these expensive lawyers and famous lawyers because they just commit lesser crimes. Violent crimes aren't as common as most people would think. Violent crimes only account of 4% of the crime. Most of them are drug-related crimes or property crimes. It's a lot smaller to commit violent crimes and be in need of these expensive lawyers. And it's a lot easier to be presented by a public defender, in which public defenders are thought so low of because they are thought to be uneducated, uninterested, and in all actuality that's not true because they had to go through just as much school as the famous lawyers and they are just as educated. They just have a little bit more on their plate, and so maybe they don't spend as much time on the cases, but they are just as interested in the outcome. According to Law and Order, The Reality of the Courtroom Life in New York City versus the TV show by Matt Young, there is a huge difference between the show and reality. There is so many things that goes into a trial in real life that are not presented on the show. For example, on the TV show, they make the shows so extravagant, the cross-examination so extravagant, and in all actuality, that's not realistic. The cross-examinations are long and boring, and the testimonies are long and boring because they need to get all the evidence out. They need the jury to understand the facts of the case rather than the fancy, the fun that is presented on TV. There is rarely people even in the courtroom because it's not as exciting as people make it out to be. There is a lot of times in which the jury will leave the room and the defense and the lawyer will argue over what to do over a certain situation in front of the judge in which the jury does not need to be there for. A lawyer must be loud and concise, and they must understand what they're talking about in order to be heard in these cases. And same with the prosecutor. The people who have understanding of what's going on excel in this line of work. Is Law and Order really realistic compared to the reality of crime? There's so much that's not talked about in regards to crime and that is presented on TV. And while Law and Order shows a very strong understanding of the court system, they still miss it by a few details. In the general aspect, Law and Order is very well understanding of the court system, but there's just small details that change it between realistic and unrealistic.